I had a disease of the eyes since I was a child. At the age of marriage, my father laid out portraits of the capital's most talented and dashing young men before me, urging me to choose a husband, someone to rely on for the rest of my life. But I insisted on throwing the embroidered ball into the crowd. All because, in my past life, I had chosen without hesitation, my childhood sweetheart, the young General Shinsongi. Only after our wedding did I learn that his cousin, Lin Ruoxue, was devastated by my choice. Heartbroken, she shaved her head and became a nun. Shinsongi believed I had ruined Ruoxue's life. He forced me to donate our entire family fortune to the nunnery, stripping the Tu family of everything we owned. Later, the two of them committed adultery behind my back. They used my blindness to their advantage, luring me into accidentally setting our home ablaze. My entire family perished in that fire. Now reborn, I threw my embroidered ball again. This time, it landed in the hands of a beggar. When I resolved to follow fate and marry him, Shinsongi flew into a rage. My father turned pale as he stared at the beggar holding the ball. My mother staggered, nearly collapsing onto the lounge in the flower hall. "This is 300 taels, take it and get out." My father trembled as he hurled the silver notes at the beggar, desperate to erase this humiliation. "Lord Tu, what do you mean by this?" The beggar's voice was calm, unyielding. "Is the wealthiest man in the capital going to break his word and deny his daughter's choice?" My heart quivered. I stepped forward. "This is heaven's will," I said. "The ball has chosen, thus the bond is formed." Gasps rippled through the hall. My mother clutched my hand, her voice trembling with desperation. "Nian Nian, you've always admired the young Master Shin. If you truly care for him, we'll go plead for a proposal from the Shin family right away." "No need." I gently pulled my hand away. In my past life, I gave Shinsongi all of me, and in return, he conspired with Ruoxue to burn my home, kill my family, and steal our fortune. That bloody memory, how could I forget? My parents saw my determination and reluctantly agreed. "This must be handled discreetly," my father whispered anxiously. "We'll look into the beggar's background at once." I nodded slightly, but I had my own plans. The beggar gave me a long, unreadable look. A faint smile tugged at his lips. "3 days from now," he said, "I'll come to marry you." He turned and walked away, with such poise, not at all like a beggar. The room erupted. The Tu family daughter must be blind, choosing a beggar as her husband. She must be possessed. They say her eyes were ill since birth, now even her heart's broken. The next day, Shinsongi arrived at our manor with Lin Ruoxue, both dressed in extravagant finery. As soon as he saw me, Shin sneered. "Tu Nian Nian, such a clever trick. Tossing the embroidered ball to a beggar, just to scare your parents into forcing me to marry you. Isn't that your plan?" I smiled coldly inside but remained composed. Did he really think the Tu family's wealth could buy my life's devotion? Dream on. He pulled Lin Ruoxue to his side, eyes full of affection. "The one I love has always been Ruoxue." Lin Ruoxue cast me a scornful glance, her gaze dripping with disdain. Still, for old time's sake, I couldn't bear to watch her truly marry a beggar. 3 days from now, Ruoxue and I will enter the gate together, Shin declared. "But remember this, Tu Nian Nian, you'll be nothing more than a concubine." Ruoxue quickly chimed in, "Sister, please agree to Brother Shin's offer. Don't ruin your life by marrying that beggar. He's clearly scheming for our family's fortune." Seeing I remained silent, Ruoxue reached out and feigned grabbing my hand, her expression pitiful. "Sister, I know I can't compare to you. It's a bit unjust to have you become a concubine. But I truly love Brother Songi." Shinsongi sneered coldly. "Ruoxue, you're still too kind. I don't see her as pitiful at all. Otherwise, why would she have diseased eyes and toss her embroidered ball to a beggar? Heaven punishes those with wicked hearts. A woman like her, she should count herself lucky if anyone's even willing to take her in." He turned to me. To Nian Nian, once you enter my household, remember your place as a concubine. I truly couldn't bear to hear another word. I inhaled deeply and cut him off. Master Shin, I am not worthy of the position of your concubine. He was momentarily stunned, then scoffed with disdain. To Nian Nian, you've grown bold. I look forward to seeing you come crawling back to beg me. With that, he dragged Lin Ruoxue away. The next morning, my parents entered my room, visibly more haggard. Nian Nian, we couldn't trace the beggar's origins. It's as if he appeared from thin air. We fear he may have ulterior motives. Just as I was about to reassure them, the steward burst in. Master, madam. A dozen carriages just arrived outside, they claimed to be delivering betrothal gifts. What? We rushed out to find the courtyard packed with enormous red lacquered chests. The lids slightly ajar revealed dazzling treasures, gold, jade, and rare jewels glittering brightly. A young servant bowed before us. Greetings to Lord and Madam Tu, and to the young lady. He stepped forward and presented a delicate blue and white porcelain vial. Our young master instructed that this medicine be taken on time. It will greatly help with the lady's eye condition. I took the cold porcelain bottle, emotions swelling in my chest. In my past life, when Shinsongi learned I had gone blind, he couldn't care less. He once publicly scorned me, saying the blind weren't worthy of him. And yet now, a man I didn't even know. Boy, my father asked gravely, who is your master? The servant leaned in and whispered a few words to my parents. Their expressions changed dramatically, shock silencing them. Our master cannot reveal his identity at this time. He asks for your utmost discretion. With that, the servant took his leave with the entourage. Father, mother, who is he? I couldn't help but ask. My mother held my hand tightly. Nian Nian, it's a long story. But rest assured, we won't stop you anymore. Just then, familiar footsteps approached from outside. Shinsongi and Lin Ruoxue arrived once more. Their eyes swept over the treasure-filled courtyard. So, Shinsongi said smugly, you've finally come to your senses. Looks like you're preparing your dowry. Ruoxue added sweetly. Such urgency, sister. But this dowry does suit the status of the Shin family. Shinsongi chuckled. Don't worry, Nian Nian. Just be a good concubine and serve Ruoxue well. I won't mistreat you. Ruoxue smiled tenderly. I've already invited the best madam to teach you how to be an obedient concubine, sister. The nerve of them, to claim another man's betrothal gifts as the dowry I prepared for Shin's household. I couldn't even be bothered to argue. Instead, I turned to my maid. Prepare the carriage. I'm going to Githwang Atelier to choose my wedding gown. The next day, my eyesight had slightly improved. I went out alone to stroll the market and select some hair ornaments I liked. As I entered a quiet alley, several burly men suddenly rushed out, grabbing me without explanation. They were clearly Shinsongi's household guards. My heart sank. Before I could resist, they dragged me into Shin Manor. In the main hall, Lin Ruoxue sat on a chair, one arm wrapped in white bandages, weeping as she pointed at the wedding dress I had returned the day before. Brother Songi. Sister hid needles in this gown, she meant to hurt me. I shouted in fury. Lies. Shinsongi's eyes burned with rage. To Nian Nian. You viper. Ruoxue has accepted you with grace, and this is how you repay her. He ordered someone to bring silver needles. You like needles so much. Then today, you'll get a taste. Several guards held me down. The cold sting of needles pierced my fingers, then my arms. Pain shot through me like fire. I clenched my teeth, refusing to cry out. After a while, Shinsongi finally signaled them to stop. He stared down at me. Let this be your first lesson in the Shin family's rules. Know your place. Tomorrow, at the appointed hour, enter through the side gate, I'll teach you how to properly serve Ruoxue. I gave him a cold smile. In your dreams. His face darkened. He signaled them to continue. More needles, more blood. I didn't know how long it lasted, only that it finally stopped. Get out and prepare yourself. Tomorrow, you will enter this house. As I staggered out, Lin Ruoxue suddenly tripped me. My forehead slammed into the table corner. Blood streamed down my face. Shinsongi instinctively moved to catch me. Ruoxue instantly put on a pitiful face. I didn't mean to. The needle wound hurt. I lost my balance and bumped into sister. Shinsongi furrowed his brows and withdrew his hand. If you can't see, then after you marry into the Shin family, you're not to step outside. I won't have you disgracing our name. Then, he ordered his men to throw me out of the manor. As I limped back home, covered in bruises and cuts, one thought weighed heavily on my mind. Why was Shinsongi so sure I would still marry him? Could it be, he, too, had been reborn? On the day of the grand wedding, dawn hadn't yet broken when I, bracing through the pain, climbed into the bridal palanquin. It wasn't until noon that a few Shin household servants arrived with a shabby little litter, swaggering up to the side gate of the Tu estate, shouting, "We're here to bring the concubine to Nian Nian into the Shin household." The steward stepped forward and said with disdain, "You're too late. The young lady of the Tu family was already wed to the Prince Regent this morning." Inside the prince's residence, imperial physicians were examining my injuries. There are multiple needle wounds on Her Highness's body. She must rest and avoid getting out of bed for the next few days. Though her eyesight is improving, one doctor noted, a full recovery will require several rare medicinal ingredients, some of which are only found in the imperial palace. I sat quietly, letting them tend to my wounds. Each needle had pierced deep. Shinsongi had shown no mercy. "Does it hurt?" Xiao Beichen's voice rang out, calm yet laced with something I couldn't place. I shook my head gently. "No." He touched the bruised skin on my wrist with great care, his eyes flashing cold. "Shinsongi is bolder than I thought." "Your Highness." "Call me Beichen," he cut me off. "We are husband and wife now." Those words made my heart stutter. When the physicians left, he personally applied the medicine, his hands gentle, almost trembling, afraid he might cause me pain. "I only threw the embroidered ball once, why would you go so far to help me?" I couldn't help but ask. He paused. "You've forgotten the bowl of congee, haven't you?" "Congee." I blinked, confused. 10 years ago, during a snowstorm in the capital, I collapsed in an alley. It was you who gave me a bowl of hot congee. His voice was soft. You said you didn't need anything in return. But from that moment, I remembered your face. A hazy memory stirred inside me. Back then, I often wandered the markets and helped many strangers. But after so long, I'd forgotten most of them. So on the day I tossed the ball, I was only strolling incognito for fun. I never expected to see you. But the moment I caught the ball, I recognized you. From then on, Xiao Beichen never left my side. My wounds began to heal. My eyes improved day by day, thanks to his care and the precious medicines he procured. Every morning I awoke, the world grew a little clearer. Your Highness. Xian Dao rushed in. Shinsongi is kneeling outside the gate, he wishes to see the princess consort. I was reading. My hand trembled, and the book slipped to the floor. Xiao Beichen said blandly. Tell him she won't see him. He's been kneeling for 3 days and nights. 3 days and nights. Shinsongi truly was persistent. I walked to the window and saw a gaunt figure kneeling at the gate, clothes soaked and tattered. Do you wish to see him? Xiao Beichen stood behind me. I shook my head. No. Then why do you look? I turned, meeting his gaze. I just wanted to confirm one thing, I said steadily. How deep his regret runs. Xiao Beichen chuckled, a glint of approval in his eyes. Very good. On the fourth day, Shen Songyi finally broke down, shouting. To Nian Nian. I was wrong. It was that wretched Lin Ruoxue, she tricked me. The one I've always loved was you. I asked Xiandao to reply. Master Shen, such deep affection. To Nian Nian is unworthy to accept it. He wept loudly. Nian Nian. I truly regret it. I'll cast Ruoxue aside if you return to me. Return. So you can hurt me again. I scoffed coldly. Shall we drive him away? One guard asked. No need, Xiao Beichen replied calmly. If he wants to kneel, let him kneel. Even if it kills him, it's still his choice. Shen Songyi knelt for 10 full days. On the 10th night, it poured. I stood by the window, watching his miserable figure drenched in rain. In my past life, I had once knelt like that. For a smile. For a word of comfort. I'd given up all pride. And now it was his turn. But I felt no joy. Only revulsion. Still thinking about him? Xiao Beichen's voice came from behind. No, I said, turning around. I was thinking about how foolish I once was. He walked up and adjusted my cloak. The past doesn't matter anymore. I nodded. I won't mention it again. On the 11th day, Shen Songyi collapsed in the rain. He was carried away. I watched his stretcher disappear down the road, my heart as still as water. Beichen handed me a bronze mirror. Look at yourself. In the mirror, a young woman stared back, serene and bright-eyed. My sight was fully restored. Thank you, Your Highness, I said sincerely. There's no need to thank me. He gently brushed my cheek. You are my wife. After he was carried off, Shen Songyi was placed under house arrest to reflect on his wrongs. Not only him, the entire Shen family was implicated. When Xiao Beichen acts, he never leaves an escape route. Shen family's shops, lands, and estates were seized overnight. Once prosperous, the Shen household became a ghost manor. As for Lin Ruoxue, her days of peace were over. After falling from grace, Shen Songyi poured all his hatred onto her, beating, cursing, venting at will. Xiandao told me she was bruised and battered, her hair a tangled mess. She eventually lost her mind, running through the streets, screaming at strangers. Your Highness, you wouldn't believe it. Xiandao recounted. She stormed into the market, shrieking, It's all your fault. You ruined me. I set my teacup down, oddly calm. In her past life, when she stepped over my blood to climb higher. Did she ever imagine this day would come? What happened then? Then the constables came and flogged her 20 times in the square. After that, she was exiled to her hometown, permanently barred from entering the capital again. Lin Ruoxue vanished from my life for good. Realizing his pleas were useless, Shen Songyi learned of my healing and Xiao Beichen's affection. Jealousy and despair consumed him. He began selling off his last heirlooms, secretly colluding with fallen royal clans and former loyalists of the previous dynasty. Xiao Beichen told me this himself. His goal, he said, voice as cold as winter, is to take your life. A chill ran through my entire body. What do you mean? Xiao Beichen's voice was low and steady. Shen Songyi has been spreading rumors, accusing you of treason. Their plan is to cause chaos during the Imperial Autumn Hunt. One group will assassinate me, another will abduct you. His fingers lightly brushed my cheek. Whether they succeed or fail, he wants to possess you, dead or alive. The blood in my veins froze. Shen Songyi, how could you be so cruel? Don't be afraid. Xiao Beichen pulled me into his arms, strong and unwavering. The steady rhythm of his heartbeat soothed the terror in mine. What do you want me to do? He looked down at me, a rare flicker of admiration in his eyes. Smart girl. I've secured His Majesty's permission. You'll come with me to the autumn hunt. I understood. Fight poison with poison. You're not afraid I'll be hurt? His gaze darkened, cold and deadly. On my land, if anyone dares touch a hair on your head, I'll wipe out their entire clan. The day of the autumn hunt came swiftly. I donned my hunting garb and followed Xiao Beichen on horseback into the golden woods. The autumn sun was brilliant, the wind crisp and gentle, by all accounts, a perfect day for hunting. But I knew danger lurked in every shadow. Just as the emperor and his court entered the forest, several masked assassins burst from the trees. Protect His Majesty! The commander of the Imperial Guards bellowed. Chaos erupted. One group charged at Xiao Beichen. The other broke toward the tent where I was resting. My heart thundered in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. The dagger Xiao Beichen had given me remained hidden in my sleeve. I had to survive. Inside the dim pavilion, I used the draped terrain to evade them. To Nian Nian. You won't escape. That voice, I knew it. I turned sharply. A masked figure lunged toward me. Shin Songyi. His eyes blazed with madness, twisted with hatred. You destroyed everything I had. Now I'll destroy you. He roared, reaching to seize me. Without hesitation, I drew the dagger and plunged it deep into his palm. Arg! He howled in pain. His mask fell to the ground, revealing a face contorted and vicious. Was this still the refined Shin Songyi I once knew? No. This man was a beast. Bang! Xiao Beichen charged in like a storm, kicking Shin Songyi across the room. Guards of the prince's manor and imperial troops swarmed in from all sides, subduing the assassins in a flash. Shin Songyi was pinned to the ground, yet still screamed. To Nian Nian. You think you've won? Without me, you'll never be truly happy. Never. I looked down at him from above, my voice calm as water. You're wrong, Shin Songyi. A faint breeze carried my words. I am happy now. Truly. His eyes widened in disbelief. And you no longer have the right to appear before me ever again. Later, Xiao Beichen handed me a command token. Do you wish to see him? I gripped the token tightly, palm damp with sweat. I do. In the depths of the imperial dungeon, damp and cold. The iron door creaked open. There, huddled in the corner, was Shin Songyi, hair matted, clothes in tatters. At the sound of footsteps, he looked up. His eyes lit with hope. To Nian Nian. You've come to save me. He lunged toward the bars, gripping them tightly. I stood still, unmoved. Why? His face twisted. We were childhood sweethearts. You once swore eternal love? Childhood sweethearts. I sneered and pulled a jade pendant from my sleeve. His eyes brightened at once. You kept it. I knew it, you still care about me. I gently stroked the smooth surface. Then clenched it in my fist. Do you remember this? When I was 12, you gave it to me. Of course. It was my promise to you. A promise, I interrupted, cold now. Yes. You made many of them. I stepped forward, voice sharp as winter frost. You promised to marry me. But while plotting with Lin Ruoxue to ruin me, you forgot. You promised to protect me for life. But when my eyes failed me, where were you? His face paled. Nian Nian, what are you saying? I'm speaking of our past life. Past life. The fire, Shin Songyi. Do you remember the flames? I stared into his eyes. You and Lin Ruoxue schemed to destroy me. You deceived my parents. Stole the entire family fortune. And when my condition worsened, you used me to set the fire, burning my family alive. He staggered back, face ashen. You're lying. Lying. I laughed coldly. That night, the tea you gave me. What did you put in it? I couldn't even stand. I couldn't walk out the door. His pupils shook. No, impossible, how could you know? The fury burning inside me could no longer be contained. Shinsongi. I died with my eyes wide open, drowned in vengeance, and that hatred is what allowed me to be reborn. In this life, I will have your blood for mine. He shook his head, trembling in horror. No, that's impossible. Do you know, I shouted, voice raw, when I burned to death. I was carrying your child. You murdered your own flesh and blood with your own hands. He dropped to his knees as if struck by lightning. My child. Yes. Your bloodline. I screamed, tears falling uncontrollably. What else do you have to say? He pounded the ground, howling in anguish. No. Nien, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Watching him collapse like this brought a flicker of satisfaction. But it wasn't enough. You think only Lin Ruoxue was involved? I sneered, voice cold as steel. Your so-called friends, greedy for a share of the spoils, spread shameful rumors about me across the capital. Even your noble aunt, she plotted dang-side Ruoxue from the shadows. His eyes widened in disbelief. You, how do you know all this? They were all part of the rebellion, weren't they? I took a step closer. Retribution has come, Shinsongi. His face turned ashen as he collapsed onto the floor. I threw the jade pendant down before him. Let this be your burial offering. On your road to the underworld, those you wronged in the last life. They'll be waiting. As I turned to leave, his cries of despair echoed behind me. Outside the dungeon, sunlight poured down like molten gold. I inhaled deeply. After all these years, the hatred inside me had finally found release. Xiao Beichen stepped forward, wordless, gently placing a cloak over my shoulders. How do you feel? He asked quietly. Satisfied, I smiled. But tears spilled freely down my cheeks. 3 days later, Shinsongi was dragged to the execution grounds. He was beheaded on the spot. Blood sprayed 3 meters high. I stood over it all, watching his head fall. There was no sorrow, no joy, only one word in my heart. Liberation. The grudge of my past life, washed away. A month later, joyous news arrived from the Imperial Medical Bureau. My eyes had made a full recovery. When the last layer of medicine was removed, the world before me gleamed with brilliant clarity. I saw the joy in Xiao Beichen's eyes, saw Xindao weeping with joy, and the spring sunshine pouring in from the windows. Your Highness, Xindao sobbed with laughter. Your eyes shine even brighter than before. I stepped toward the bronze mirror. The woman reflected back at me had eyes as clear as autumn water. Not a trace of shadow remained. One rebirth. One fulfilled destiny. Xiao Beichen came closer and stroked my cheek. From now on, he whispered, nothing will ever cloud these eyes again. Warmth surged in my chest. But just then, hurried footsteps sounded outside. Your Highness. Urgent dispatch from the northern border. Beichen's expression hardened. He took the military scroll and read it quickly. His brow furrowed. My heart sank. What is it? The northern frontier has erupted, he said grimly. Enemy forces have breached the borders. The court has ordered me to lead the troops, immediately. My chest tightened. In my past life, I remembered. This very campaign dragged on for 3 years. Xiao Beichen nearly died on the battlefield. When will you leave? At dawn. In a single night, the entire Prince Regent's manor was thrown into turmoil, preparing for war. I sat silently in the study, watching Beichen sort through military scrolls, 1,000 thoughts swirling in my mind. He felt my quiet and lowered the scrolls. You're worried. I nodded. I didn't hide it. He came forward and withdrew something from his robes. The seal of the Prince Regent. He placed it solemnly before me. I froze. This seal represented half the power of the entire court. I'll be away. There will be those who act rashly. Only with you holding the seal can I feel at ease. I accepted it. It was heavy, not just in weight, but in the trust it carried. I understand. The night before his departure, Betrayal held my hand. If anything changes, he said softly, act as you see fit. You don't need my permission. I'll wait for your return. He kissed the corner of my lips. Wait for me. 3 days after his departure, the court began to stir. A guest of Minister Liu, a former censor, came to visit the manor, his words cautious, but full of hidden meaning. I sat upright in the main hall, listening calmly, but inside, I sneered. So Minister Liu wanted to redivide court power, did he? The guest paled. You misunderstand, Your Highness. Minister Liu merely. Then return and tell him this. I set down my teacup with a cold clang. With the prince away, I am the master of this manor. Anyone with treacherous thoughts will live to regret them. The man turned gray and left in shame. The next day, Minister Liu was accused of embezzling military rations. It was only the beginning. In the 2 weeks that followed, the Vice Minister of Revenue was imprisoned after I exposed his scheme to misappropriate the national treasury. Then, the Minister of Works was caught red-handed tampering with army supplies. Word spread like wildfire across the capital. The princess consort of the Prince Regent's household, sharp, unyielding, and ruthless. No less formidable than the prince himself. I sat in the study, reading a letter from Xiao Beichin, the corners of my lips curled in a soft smile. Nian Nian, the front lines are stable, no need to worry. Affairs in the capital handled so well, my heart is at ease. Just a few simple lines, and yet warmth flooded my chest. Xiandao entered with a bowl of bird's nest soup. Your Highness, you've grown thinner. I touched my cheek, indeed, I had. For the sake of holding the court steady, I'd barely rested in days. It's nothing. Just as the words left my mouth, an urgent military dispatch arrived. I tore it open, and my expression darkened instantly. The border was under siege. Enemy forces had surrounded the city, and rations were nearly depleted. My heart clenched. Prepare the carriage. I must go to the palace. In the imperial court, after I reported the situation, the emperor roared in fury. Useless. They can't even manage basic provisions. Your Majesty, I knelt in the hall, the priority now is to mobilize emergency grain. I am willing to offer the entire treasury of the Prince Regent's estate to relieve this crisis. The emperor looked at me, approval flickering in his eyes. With a consort like you, Beichin is truly blessed. 3 days later, the grain convoy set out. I stood at the city gates, watching the long line of wagons rumble away. Silently, I whispered to the wind. Xiao Beichin, please, return safely. A month passed. News of victory arrived. Xiao Beichin had shattered the enemy forces and reclaimed the occupied lands. I sat in the main hall of the manor, listening to the soldier recount the battle. Pride filled my heart. That is my husband. My prince. Your Highness, the prince will return in half a month. I nodded. The heavy stone in my chest finally lifted. That night, I sat alone in the courtyard beneath the moon. Your Highness, Xiandao gently called, you should rest. Let me sit a while longer. I looked up at the luminous moon, my heart brimming with tenderness. Xiao Beichin, I've waited for you here. For your safe return. For our white-haired years together. Half a year later, the border sent back its final dispatch. Victory. Complete victory. Xiao Beichin would return in triumph. I sat in the grand hall, hands trembling as I held the war bulletin. Tears welled in my eyes. This day. I had finally waited long enough. Xian Dao burst in, radiant with joy. Your Highness. The city is already preparing to welcome him. I rose at once. I couldn't let him see me like this. 3 days later, I stood atop the high welcoming platform outside the city gates, dressed in deep crimson ceremonial robes. My phoenix coronet sparkled beneath the morning sun. The civil and military officials, the regent household, and thousands of citizens waited in hushed anticipation. The sound of hooves echoed from afar. I held my breath. My heart thundered. Through the swirling dust, the familiar banner of the Prince Regent emerged. Xiao Beichen rode at the front, clad in blood-stained battle armor, tall, proud, unbroken. His gaze pierced the crowd and found me immediately. That moment, I nearly broke down in tears. He had returned. Truly, fully, returned. Thunderous cheers erupted. But in my eyes, there was only him. The emperor came in person to greet him, beaming with joy. Xiao Beichen, we confer upon you the title of Yizhi Jingshan Wang. The highest rank beneath heaven. A prince of unmatched authority. My eyes widened. Bestowed with power over 100,000 households. Free to ascend court in sword and boots. Unbending, untitled in memorials. Bowing to none but the throne. Xiao Beichen knelt on one knee. Your servant thanks your majesty for this great honor. The emperor turned to me. Tinyan Nian, we name you first-rank consort of the Yizhi Prince Regent. I bowed with reverence. 1,000 emotions swirled in my heart. In my past life, I was but a concubine. In this life, I am the highest-ranked consort in the land. At the celebration banquet, ministers raised their cups in joy. Suddenly, Xiao Beichen rose and strode toward me. Lords and ladies, he said, voice ringing clear across the hall. I have an announcement. My heart tightened. What is he about to say? This life. I will marry only to Nian Nian. The Prince Regent's estate shall never have another mistress. The entire hall fell silent. All eyes turned to me, full of envy, awe. My cheeks flushed, but my heart overflowed with joy. Years passed. When the emperor fell gravely ill, he summoned us into the palace. He entrusted his young crown prince to Xiao Beichen. Beichen, he said, grasping his hand. My son. I leave him to you. This is the golden seal of regency, its bearer is as my own self. A month later, the emperor passed. The new sovereign ascended. Xiao Beichen became regent prince. Court politics stirred again. The Minister of Revenue visited me in secret. Your Highness, the young emperor is but a child. Perhaps the prince should take the throne instead. I stood instantly, voice cold as steel. Are you teaching me treason? The man paled. I wouldn't dare. Then leave. He stumbled out, humiliated. That night, I told Xiao Beichen everything. He sat in silence. There will be more like him. I know, I said, taking his hand. But we must never walk that path. He looked at me deeply. With you beside me, I will never lose my way. Under Xiao Beichen's guidance, the young emperor grew into a wise and just ruler. We had 2 children. A son, Xiao Muyuan, steadfast and intelligent. A daughter, Xiao Rui, gentle, graceful, and brilliant. I founded an academy for women, promoted agriculture and education, and was honored by the people as a wise and virtuous consort. One spring evening, Xiao Beichen and I walked in the garden, hand in hand, guiding our grandchild. He stopped and drew a weathered ring from his robe. Nian Nian, he whispered, slipping it onto my finger. Meeting you was the greatest fortune of my life. I stared at the familiar ring, tears falling without warning. A long-buried memory returned. In my darkest hour, when I had nearly given up on life, a mysterious man had saved me. And he wore this very ring. Xiao Beichen. I grasped his hand tightly. Hand in hand, together always, until our hair turns white. Sunlight bathed the courtyard. Children's laughter echoed like bells through the spring breeze. This life was truly worth it. The end.